Joining us right now by video chat is Father Carlos Martins. He is the host of an incredible brand new podcast called The Exorcist Files. Over 1 million downloads so far. And if you haven't listened to it, let me recommend it to you. I know it's creepy. It's not that bad. Trust me. It's actually quite good. And he joins us now. Good morning to you, Father Carlos Martins.
Good morning, Joe. Thank you for having me on.
Praise be to God. Grateful for your time today. Congratulations. The last time I talked to you, it hadn't yet released. It was about to drop, and now it's out, and I've listened to it. It is very, very good. What has been the response so far to this podcast?
Oh, just it's been amazing. It's far exceeded what we expected, and even iHeart itself, iHeart Media is the one producing it, and they invested an awful lot of money into doing so. And the episodes sound really professional because they are. iHeart put their best people on the job. And the feedback that has come back is amazing. People have heard it, and it has made them believe in God again. Some people who had left the practice of the faith have reverted to the faith. I got feedback from one Anglican priest. He listened to the episodes and thought, you know what, the catechesis here is so good. You've made the spiritual world so tangible and real. I want to convert to Catholicism.
Wow.
And I've just received hundreds upon hundreds of messages of those sorts. So it's been wonderful.
Praise be to God. That's a conversion. That's amazing. Well, one of the things that I was listening to the episodes, it's very catechetical. I mean, there are dramatic portions, especially when it comes to like the possessions or the infestations or the harassments. I mean, that could be a little scary to some folks for sure, but it's not that bad really. But it was the catechetical portion. You have a co-host on this show who it sounds to me is not Catholic, but I found it fascinating as he was trying to explain, okay, well, what does the Catholic Church believe about exorcised salt and holy water? Where does this come from? Why do they do this? I mean, I found I bet there's a lot of people whose eyes are just opening for the first time. And I never knew this about the Catholic Church. I never even thought about the Catholic Church in this way. Has that been part of the experience?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I wanted from the beginning. I wanted this to be something that people of all faiths could sink their teeth into. Of course, Catholics to get to know their own particular faith because we possess the treasure. But a treasure is worth nothing if no one knows that it exists. Secondly, for those who are Christian but are not part of the Catholic faith, it's not just an explanation of what we believe, but it's an explanation of why we believe it. And so there's an apologetic to it. And that apologetic is, for many Protestants, the first time they've heard the rationality behind some of our most basically held beliefs. And so it has just opened the eyes of many people that, there's a reason and rationality to this, that it's not as absurd and random as I thought what Catholics believe. And then for even non-Christians, the fact that there is a logic to how we do things and how we perceive the world that is not thoughtless, but there's a reason, there's a ratio, to use a Latin word for it. That notion of a logic, of a fittingness of how the church proceeds based on its belief is something that just spoke to people. And the feedback I get overwhelmingly is people can't wait for the next episode. We've launched 9, and it was the 9th episode was out there just minutes, and then we hit the 1,000,000th download. People, if we're late with an episode, in other words, I mean the episodes for 1 hour of podcast, it requires, just with the sound editing, 140 hours of editing on behalf of the team, because it's a 3D binaural sound experience. So it requires a tremendous amount of engineering. If we're an hour or two late, the emails already start coming in saying, "Hey, what's going on? Is there an episode coming in?" Now it's a good problem to have. It's both annoying, but it's a good problem to have.
Good problem to have. There were several catchphrases of sorts. I wouldn't call them catchphrases, but that's just to make it simple. During these podcasts that really stood out to me, one was, "The battle is not between the devil and the priest. Christ is the warrior. You are the instrument." That was a very powerful phrase and a very powerful catechesis. And if I'm not mistaken, that was along the story where a Protestant pastor was called, and the pastor's like, "You got to call the priest." And I just found that really fascinating that, for all of those that would attack Holy Mother Church, for whatever reason, they still recognize when it comes to exorcisms, you got to call the priest.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. The whole notion is authority, and there is an authority invested within the priesthood, an authority that flows through the church. So the church is the grantor of that power. Christ is the author of the power. But especially in an exorcism, the Catholic Church is I will say the Catholic and the Orthodox, the church that possesses the priesthood, because really we're part of one church, the Catholics and the Orthodox. There is a separation between us. There's not a perfect communion, but nevertheless we each possess the priesthood. And there's an acknowledgement on behalf of the Protestant denominations that in terms of exorcism, the priesthood possesses an authority that no one else has.
You talked about how the demons will often try to weaken the priests and play these games during the sessions. That, it's not as though they have a choice. They have to play by the rules, right? So God sets the rules. They have to play by the rules. But they try to play with the priest's mind and emotions, is kind of the way you described it. Can you talk about that for a second?
Certainly, yeah. Their whole enterprise is one of deception. And so what they will always try to do is get the priest to believe that his words are ineffective, that he really doesn't possess the authority that he has, or because things are taking a while, when I say taking a while, the average possession requires something in the neighborhood of 75 exorcisms. It's not a one-shot deal. Once in a while, you get a one-shot deal, and it's wonderful, and you might not even be late for dinner because of it. But they don't typically happen that way. So once a week, an exorcism with a victim once a week for a year and a half, that's the average time. And so, there's lots of wiggle room in there for the demon to kind of begin to exerting an influence on the priest and making him think, maybe I'm not the right guy for this case. Maybe my words are ineffective. And so having a consistent team is so good for this purpose, because the team can perceive things that the priest misses. And in the conversation that happens afterwards, in the debriefing, they put things down on the table that maybe you've missed. And so that does a lot to dispel the kind of the faithlessness that you might have in yourself. But really, the battle is Christ. And so Christ can snap his fingers and the demon is gone. So if Christ chooses for things to proceed in a different manner, that's up to Christ. And so my job is to just obey. My job is not to cast out the devil. My job is to be available to Jesus Christ and to do what he wants, and then things will proceed according to his timing.
Sharon, one of our insiders, is asking whether or not you think the devil, the diabolic, Satan is more active in our current time than usual. Is there an uptick in diabolic activity, Father Carlos Martins?
There sure is. And there's just one simple explanation. It's the de-Christianization of Western society that is leading up to it. So de-Christianization of necessity means a re-paganization. Watch the Grammy Awards, watch the Super Bowl, watch the halftime show, and you see paganism writ large. We're reverting to the worship of the demonic, the worship of the spirits of the world, and so there you have it. But I will say this, that it just as in the early church, where paganism was all around us, the fact that the church had an effect on those demons and no one else did was a great apologetic for the early church. You know, St. John Chrysostom, the church father, writes, the church's effectiveness in the demonic realm was a great apologetic, because the shaman of the days, the shamans of the day in the early church, they didn't have the power that Christ's priest did. And so that made many people turn to the church.
Wow. We're going to run out of time soon. I want to get this in, get your opinion on this. Hopefully you've seen at least the trailer to this brand new movie that's about to release. Russel Crowe starring Father Gabriel Amorth, God rest his soul, as the Pope's exorcist. Now, I have definite opinions about this, but nobody cares about what I have to think. They want to know, what does an exorcist actually think about this coming movie portraying Father Gabriel Amorth and exorcism?
Sure. You know, I've seen trailers. I've not seen the actual movie. What I'll say is that the way in which they're presenting this is unfortunate, in the sense that there's a horror genre that's being portrayed. And, you know, the biography, this is being presented as a biography of Father Amorth. When you can produce a biography of somebody famous like Amorth, and it can be an unauthorized biography, and that's exactly what this is. So it's their conjecture. Unfortunately, it looks like it's ringing the wrong kind of bells. It's sensationalistic. I haven't seen it, so to be fair, I want to do that to give an assessment of it, and I will be giving an assessment of it. But I will say this: on the same day, there's another movie on exorcism being released called Nefarious. And I have seen that movie. I was sent a screener of it because the producers wanted my take on it. And I will say that Nefarious is easily the best movie on exorcism that has ever been produced, that I have seen. So Nefarious, what is good about it is it presents the conundrum that a possessing demon always puts the victim in. So it's more effective than any other movie that I've ever seen, even The Exorcist, at presenting that.
Wow, Nefarious. Oh, I'm going to have to check that out. Maybe have you back when it releases. I'm going to have to watch the trailer for that. Nefarious. I'll be sending a link to Nefarious to the Insider email list today. Father Carlos Martins, God love you. Great podcast. Congratulations. Educating the world on the truth of exorcism, the diabolic, the occult, and what not to do and how to get out of the mess. It's great. Check it out. Father Carlos Martins, God bless you and God love you.